think we definitely have to be harder with China.
With the GOP debates, there's been two really stark contrasts on how to deal with China. You have Mitt Romney, who is essentially saying we're in a trade war to begin with China, and he wants to impose, if they don't get their currency under control, he wants to impose heavy taxation on them. And then Jon Huntsman, who has a completely different approach.
Former ambassador to China.
Former ambassador
under
to China
Obama.
under Obama. Where do you come down on what should our approach be?
I think we definitely have to be harder with China. You know, people are talking like Donald Trump was hitting China really hard. And I think we need to hit them hard. And then what we do policy-wise, I think we need to have a debate about it. You know, Trump was saying we need 25% tariffs. You know, I think you have to be careful with that because then everyone starts slapping tariffs and you have like a big trade war. But I think even before you get to that point, there's lots of things you can do. They break every single trade rule and we don't say anything about it. Let's just say, look, we want you to play by the same rules everyone else does.
But what if they say, forget you, we're not going to play, we're going to continue to do? What should be our response?
Well, I think at the end of the day, we need to start making stuff in this country again.
Okay.
I'm from Detroit. You know, you go to that town and it looks terrible. Helmut Kohl, the former Chancellor of Germany, visited Detroit for a G7 conference, I don't know, 10, 20 years ago. And he said, wow, this looks like German cities when I was a kid after World War II, just so bombed out and abandoned. So I think, you know, and I think Detroit is a symbol of our industrial base. In World War II, it was the arsenal of democracy. It let us beat all these tyrannical governments. We could not do that today if we wanted to because we don't have an industrial base anymore. I think we need to start building things here again and then not be so dependent on cheap imports from a place like communist China.
Now, with your research, we know that China is building up their military operations substantially. To what effect? What do you see China doing it for?
Well, I think the big thing is, you know, there are competing theories on what the biggest threat of China is. You know, are they going to gobble everybody up? Are they going to try to defeat us in something? Or will they just break up and then it's a big disaster because you have, you know, 20% of the world's population in chaos? I think as long as things don't go terribly bad, you know, we can keep muddling along in this kind of way where they're not really a direct threat. I think where they become a big problem is, I think the analogy or the historical precedent I look to is Japan before World War II. You know, one thing people say is trading partners never get into wars with one another, right? So when people try to say the Chinese threat isn't that bad, they say we have too many interlinking business interests. Total baloney. Before World War II, we were Japan's #1 trading partner. Before World War I, Britain and Germany were each other's #1 trading partners, right? So having a robust trading relationship doesn't mean you're not going to get into a war. It's just historical malarkey. I think a big danger with China is we go into a big double-dip recession or a depression. Commodity prices go crazy. They need so many resources to keep their industrial machine going. If there's any hiccup in that supply chain, they might do the same thing Japan did. You know, when we cut off Japan's oil and when Japan couldn't get resources, they decided to go take them. You know, that's when they started invading Southeast Asia and wanted to get to Australia. It's because they said, look, our people are getting used to a higher standard of living and we can't provide it. We're going to have social upheaval. So they said, let's go take the stuff. And I think that's a big danger of not only China, but this navy they're building, is they're going to be able to project force into the region. And one of the stories that people aren't talking about very much, all the countries in Southeast Asia, most of them who were previously occupied by the Japanese, are freaking out about China. And they don't say much, just because, you know, China is influential in the region. But I think their actions speak louder than their words. And there's an arms race going on in Southeast Asia. A lot of these countries, Indonesia, Malaysia, defense spending is up 700% in 5 years. Indonesia's is up 150%. For the first time since the Vietnam War, a Southeast Asian country is in the top 10 defense budgets in the whole world. And that's little Singapore. It's a city-state, and it's in the top 10 military budgets on the planet. And that's because they're freaking out about China, and they're worried that, you know, the Japan scenario could play out again.